This is a heavy storm rolling over a city. When weather like this approaches, you don't argue with it. You put on a coat. Most of us have been trained to treat government authority the exact same way, as an inevitable force of nature. We routinely make a critical psychological error. We assume that if a rule is actively enforced, it must be legitimate. When a fine is levied or a regulation is issued, the instinct is to endure the pressure rather than investigate the right behind it. The state has the official letterhead, they wear the badge, they stamp the seal. But these symbols do not prove a rightful claim to command. They only prove that a specific organization currently has the power to compel obedience. There is one specific question that changes how we view every agency demand and political argument. It is the question that sits at the very foundation of the state. Does government create the law, or is government bound by the law? This is not a theoretical civics debate. How you answer that single question draws the exact dividing line between a society of free individuals and a society living in servitude. Let's follow the first option to its logical end. If government invents the law, then law is nothing more than the physical power of the state written down on paper. The immediate consequence is that human rights are not actually rights, they are permissions. They are temporary, conditional, and easily revoked. In this power-centric world, no higher moral standard limits state action. Principle, justice, and truth are replaced entirely by the mechanics of force. The very definition of the word legal changes. It stops meaning morally right and simply means authorized by whoever holds power today. The operational reality of this system is that the state can rewrite, suspend, or ignore its own rules at will, enforcing whatever it wants as long as it has enough physical power to make citizens comply. Enforcement in this model proves nothing about legitimacy. It is merely a measurement of who holds a monopoly on violence. Without a fixed standard standing above the state, citizens are left entirely vulnerable. The rules change the moment the leadership changes. When law is defined entirely by state power, true freedom is an illusion. You do not own your rights. You are only renting them from your rulers. Now, take the alternative reality. What if the government does not create law, but is instead strictly bound by it? For a government to be bound, the law must exist completely independent of the state. It must be prior to the state's formation. A government cannot be constrained by something it invented. Think about gravity. Government can regulate air travel. It can tax jet fuel. It can license pilots. It can restrict airspace. But it cannot repeal gravity. It did not create gravity, so it cannot command gravity. It is bound by it. That is the distinction. Now apply the same logic to law. If law is real in the same way gravity is real, something fixed, something discoverable, something not invented by decree, then government does not create law. Government operates inside it. Viewing law as a fixed reality strips the government of absolute power. It means the state is a subordinate entity, locked inside boundaries it did not create and cannot alter. There is a precise, real-world consequence to this framework. The moment a state steps outside of this fixed higher law, it is no longer exercising authority. It is merely utilizing force. This distinction changes the relationship between the citizen and the state. It replaces automatic compliance with a requirement for proof. This creates a litmus test for every demand the government makes. Every statute, every fine, and every badge must now answer a prior fundamental question regarding its rightful origin. That right cannot be derived from an official office. It does not come from a title, and it is not granted by a piece of legislation. If the state is truly bound by law, its power must come from a source higher than itself. Rejecting the state as the source of law forces every exercise of power to prove its legitimacy. And once you accept that premise, it leads to one unavoidable question. If government does not create law, what does?